In this action section, we're going to talk about self-discipline. So in the lesson, we talked a lot about toughening up, about just gritting it and getting through that idea, that myth that everything's going to be easy. And that's, it's easy to say, but how can you actually implement the self-discipline necessary to be tough in certain situations? And I could ask quick questions, and I could ask groups of people quick questions that always, garner a chuckle. That is like, when was the last time you procrastinated on something? Or, what have you said you were gonna do, but haven't done yet? Have you browsed some websites you probably shouldn't be on, or wasted some time when you said you were gonna do something else? What's not checked off your to-do list, And a lot of the reasons that these things happen, right? The reason we're procrastinating, the reason we're doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and not actually working on our goals or working towards something that's meaningful to us, is just simply self-discipline, a lack of self-discipline. To kind of start this off, I wanted to share a quick story with you. A fairly close friend of mine came to Angel and I a while back, and somewhat of a sad story. Had a hepatitis C, had some serious liver problems related to hepatitis C, and needed to basically take a shot in the stomach once every 2 days. It was every 48 hours, I believe. And this was some type of new drug, and it was based on the specific kind of hepatitis C and his liver condition, it was going to help him out. And it was kind of a test drug, and so they had a group of people. He was one of, I don't know, maybe 20 or so people that were testing this drug out at that particular clinic. And so every 2 days he had to give himself these shots. And and I believe it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it was actually 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And on those days where he took those shots, he would experience extreme pain. He would extreme vomiting, headache, really crazy abdominal pains from the shot. He would go from feeling great to feeling horrible when he took these shots. And so the momentary feeling of taking that shot was horrible. But the long-term benefit was that if he did not take the shot, he would almost inevitably, his doctor said, inevitably, he would die from liver cirrhosis of the liver. So he was trading in, as we talked about in the lesson, short-term pleasure for long-term happiness and health. He was foregoing what really was a nice day today for better days ahead. And he came to us because he wanted some tactics, some ways to help him motivate himself to actually take these shots. Because if you think about it, if you have something like hepatitis C, where that maybe 20 or 30 years down the road, it's going to shorten your life, no question about it, once the cirrhosis of the liver kicks in. But right now you feel great. It's hard to say, well, I'm just going to inject myself and feel absolutely horrible today and just ruin my day. So what we set up for him was something that we call reward substitution. And he was an absolute sucker for movies. He loved watching movies. And this was several years back when it wasn't as easy to watch, flicks online. You were going to a Blockbuster Video or something like that and actually renting movies. So what we did is we set up a system for him so that every single time he gave himself a shot, he would watch a movie that he loved. And he was a very kind of productive guy. One of those guys that's just he's not gonna just take time to watch movies just because he likes watching movies. He was a really focused, really hard worker. And he still is today. But at that time, the thought of wasting time watching movies was actually tough for him. But he loved it. And so what we did is we said, okay, if you inject yourself, not 10 minutes later, not an hour later, but immediately, you will inject yourself and you will watch a movie. That's the reward. That is the reward. And you need to make an agreement with yourself that you're going to do that and do it. And so that's what he did. Every single time he needed to take that shot, he would inject himself and he would watch one of these movies. And using that tactic, it was enough motivation to really get him through. I believe it was 7 months that he had to go through those shots every couple days. And it got him through it. And what was even more interesting is that at the end, we found out that a lot of the people that were in that test group with him did not take the drugs as well as he did. Like, they did not follow the routine of taking those injections every 2 days the way he did. He was one of the few who did. And that shows you that most of those people did not have the necessary self-discipline. Let me take a moment here and kind of rewind the clock. This is a problem with self-discipline that we've been dealing with, going back to, like historic times. And you can even think of the story of Adam and Eve, right? Like, who in their right mind would bite into an apple and forego a blissful lifetime in the Garden of Eden? Who would just take one bite of that apple? Why would you do that? And we actually, if you think about it, modern times has something similar. It's like called texting and driving, right? A text goes off on our phone, and so we answer it, we start typing away, and people are crashing into telephone poles, into the back of other cars because of this, because we're distracted, because we're thinking, something quick is gonna excite us in the moment, and we're not thinking long term. We're giving up long-term health and happiness for something that's just tantalizing us in the present. And opposite of stoicism, right? You got back to the lesson, you got to look more long-term. You got to be present, but you got to look more long-term as well. You can't let something like a text message interrupt you, So Garden of Eden, they bit into the apple. This is something that we've been struggling with over and over and over again. So I talked about reward substitution. I think that's one great way to get anybody to get on track with self-discipline. If you can provide yourself a reward for getting something done that you don't want to do every single time you have to do it, it's going to make the process of doing that thing you don't want to do a lot easier. So the second method I want to talk about that Angel and I commonly discuss with clients about how to get over the lack of self-discipline is basically setting a system up for yourself that motivates you, like basically almost like a punishment, like punishing yourself a little bit for slacking off. So you kind of set up a trap for yourself. And to start this one off, I wanted to tell you a little story that I had read recently about a hospital in Denmark that was a drug rehabilitation clinic. And people would go to this drug rehab clinic, and the patient would come in. They'd go there by choice to get clean. And the first thing upon entering the facility would be the doctor would say, I need you to fill out this letter. I need you to write this long letter to one person that you would never want to find out about your drug problem. I want you to put all the details about your drug problem in this and address it to somebody you would never want to find out your drug problem. And these people, didn't necessarily know what was going on, but they were users. They were looking to overcome the issue. They were desperate. They were there by choice. They wrote the letter. As you might imagine, a few weeks later, a lot of these patients would relapse. They would say, "Oh my God, I'm done with this. I no more rehab for me," and they'd want out. What the doctors would do at that point to motivate them to stay on track is they would say, "Well, that letter that you filled out will be sent to that person you don't want to find out. That's how this works. Is if you leave early, we send the mail out." And I believe they actually did agree upon this. They kind of signed some fine print that said that on the way into the facility. So they had already kind of signed their life away with that one. And so now they were at this point where their pivotal point where they're like, I want out of the rehab. But they know that the doctor is going to send this confession letter to, it'd be like me sending a confession letter to my mom saying, well, I'm hooked on heroin or something like that. It'd be horrible. I wouldn't want that, right? So that's what they were doing to these people. And I believe that it actually, eventually, that hospital was shut down, if I recall correctly from the article I read, because of human rights issues, which is kind of crazy. It makes sense, right? Because it was kind of going a little bit against their human rights. But at the same time, it had a ridiculous success rate. The amount of people that hospital cleaned up was supposed to be like drastically more beneficial for actually ridding people of their abusing habits than any other methods. And it was because they were binding these people. They were basically having this person fill out a letter that then they were later using as a threat, and it was enough to get these people clean. So, I mean, that's something to think about, right? I mean, that's an extreme example, but we've seen alarm clocks that have wheels on them, you know? So when the alarm clock goes on in the morning, when you set an alarm clock at night, you're like, you know, I am a great person who's going to get up and I'm going to be at the gym at 6:30 a.m. and I'm going to write a blog post before 8, and then I'm going to take a shower and go to work. And when that alarm goes off at 6:30 a.m. to start the whole process, you are not the same person who said all those things the night before. You know, you're, if I could just get another hour of sleep, I'd rather just sleep till 8:30 or, you know, 2 hours till 8:30 and get the extra rest. So in order to create discipline for yourself, I mean, people have created things like alarm clocks that have wheels on them that rotate at different, you know, speeds, so that literally the alarm goes off and the alarm flies off the desk and is going around on the floor, and because the wheels are spinning at different speeds, you never know where the thing's going to be, you know. But that's like a one way of kind of punishing yourself, saying, I know I'm not going to get up, but if I have to chase a friggin' clock around my room, that's going to help me get up. I've seen some jokes that are not, it seems satirical, but there actually is an alarm clock that can attach to your bank account and to a charity that you don't like. You can put it to any charity, but the idea is to attach it to a charity you don't like, and then for every 30 minutes you hit the snooze, it donates a couple bucks to a charity you hate, which is hilarious. But it's a mindset thing, right? You don't have to invest in these products, but think about the principle. The principle is you're setting up some kind of trap. You are basically setting, it's that, like I said, the night before, you're that good person that's going to wake up early and get all this stuff done. The morning of, you're not that same person. And that's how we all operate. And when we think about ourselves in the future, we think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that just right, I'm going to work extra hard, I'm going to go running, I'm going to work on my business for 3.5 hours every night, you know. But when the time actually comes and push comes to shove, we're tired. We're like, it'd be so much easier just to watch the basketball game or go shopping with my girlfriends and hang out, you know. Maybe just hang out with the kids. You know, it'd be easier just to do that stuff. And like, you know, as I said in the lesson, it's good to have the balance, but it's not good if you're always just doing that. If you've got that Epicurean mentality where you're just like, I'm just gonna live for now. I'm just gonna relax. So you've got to motivate yourself. You gotta push your buttons a little bit so that the person that you think you're going to be in the future, you know, when you actually, you know, we'll never actually be that person. We're always just going to be the person we are in the present, and that person in the present's rarely going to be that ambitious because it's so much easier just to say, whatever. So if you can set up some systems for yourself, something like that alarm clock that runs off, you know, or that letter that would get sent if, you know, you didn't follow through with a particular goal of yours, or they have software programs. You know, obviously we live in a very technological age these days. They have software programs. Angel uses a software program to track the amount of time that she spends online. And you can just go into Google and just literally type in like time tracker for the computer, like track my time spent on the computer, track my time online. And you'll come up with software applications. A lot of them are freeware, or very inexpensive, that'll actually track the amount of time you're browsing Facebook, you're, you know, just doing foolish things online, maybe even the amount of time you're just wasting on the computer itself. So, and you can see like what web pages, what applications have you used, you know, and you can kind of steal some of your time back from the wastefulness, you know. There's also applications like you can install that will literally email you, or like the Denmark rehab clinic, it will send emails to people announcing the fact that you're procrastinating or that you're browsing websites you shouldn't be on. And it'll actually send out emails if you try to uninstall the applications as well. So, I mean, these are just ideas for you. I'm not suggesting, I don't really want to promote any particular products in this video, but I will say that if you Google for this stuff, I mean, definitely a time tracker for the computer, tracking your time on the computer, great idea. Set up a system for yourself. I'll recap it. You know, first one, reward substitution. If there is, a lot of times the best way to motivate ourselves to do something is to do something we don't want to do. Is by giving ourselves a reward that actually is unrelated to, you know, what we want to achieve. So, you know, for my friend, as I told you, he had to give himself a shot in the stomach. Watching videos was completely unrelated to curing his liver, cirrhosis of the liver, but it was something that he loved, so he was able to use reward substitution to get there. A funny quick side note with that is, you think about like global warming, like convincing people to save the planet is kind of tough, but why do you think the Prius is so popular? And I think half the reason the Prius is so popular, it's something we laugh at from time to time, is that the people driving the Prius always seem so happy and so like, I'm saving the world, this is great, I'm a good person. And so the reason they buy the Prius is not because they're necessarily interested in saving the world. It's in the back of their mind, but they can't really think about the big picture, but they are concerned with being good. They are concerned with being a good person, feeling good about themselves, like they're making a difference. So that motivates them, right? That's reward substitution. They are motivated to feel good about themselves and maybe even to look good in front of others, as in like, here I am, saving the planet. So, that's one of the reasons the Prius has become so popular. From a business standpoint, they were able to use reward substitution to get people to buy a car to promote a specific cause indirectly, Everybody that buys a Prius is definitely not, saving, the planet in any other way, but they are doing that. So a little bit of a side topic. And then the last one, so reward substitution. And then the other one is really setting yourself up with some kind of trap, setting up a system that's going to go against your tendency to slack off. So write yourself an email, get yourself a software program, do something. There's got to be something, I don't want to say bad, but like some kind of punishment, some kind of negative outcome for slacking off. If you can set up a system for yourself that creates that, and you might, a great way is just having someone help you with it. Having someone hold you accountable and make sure that that person's going to do whatever that is. You can get the reward, or you can get the punishment, so to speak. But you can kind of look at it both ways, and sometimes using a combination of the two is a great way to motivate yourself to stay on track. So, hope you've enjoyed this action section, and we'll see you in the next lesson.